So as a part of Nephrite Petroleum 10.7 release, we have covered, we have introduced 3 new features. Like one is instance suppression, instance filtering, support for instance filtering in Petroleum. Then like we have added few support, new platform support. We have discontinued few platform supports, and we have modified the event message for events of few classes. So let's start with support for instance filtering feature. So basically, in case of instance filtering feature, like the instances are discovered on Petrolegend, but we don't stream that particular instances onto TSPS TSIM. The whole reason behind this was like we had got few customer cases wherein there was scaling issues, and because of which we need to filter out those instances that are discovered onto the Petrolegend. So basically, there are 2 use cases which we'll be covering as a part of instance filtering. The first use case is like the filtering policy is applied after the instance is discovered on Petrolegend and TSPS UI, and the second is like filtering policy is applied before the instance is discovered on Petrolegend. So we will be covering these particular 2 use cases as a part of instance filtering feature. So like once we apply the filtering policy onto the Petrolegend from the TSPS, like these are the pconfig rules that gets applied onto the Petrolegend. So one is applied at application class level, then two rules are getting applied at instance level, that is data and event at instance level, and similarly data and event is applied at param level. So at 3 different level: application class level, instance ID, and param name. These 3 rules will be getting applied once you applied our instance suppression policy from TSPS. Now, from the debugging perspective from the Petrolegend, like we need to enable the debug for 3 subsystems, like on Petrolegend, that is main, com, and JDD. Not, let's say if you want to troubleshoot the filtering feature from Petrolegend perspective, like whether the instances are getting filtered properly or not, like if you get a kind of support issue, then from that perspective we need to enable 3 subsystems, that main, com, and JDD. And inside the Petrolegend debug log, there is a string called filtered AIS underscore MSG APL. So if we search for this particular string, then we will come to know whether the application class which we have filtered, instance that we have filtered, has been filtered out in Petrolegend or not. So search string is filtered AIS underscore MSG in debug log. So in the first case, wherein the filter policy is applied after the instance is discovered on Petrolegend, so we will see that instance is discovered on Petrolegend, it is collecting the data. Similarly, that particular instance will be appear in TSPS also. So now, once this particular instance is discovered and on Petrolegend and TSPS, and then you go ahead and apply the filtering policy for that particular instance, that particular instance will be marked for delete in TSPS UI. Any questions?
Pankaj, I have a query over here. See, you are telling that filter policy applied after instance is discovered on the TA, correct? And the TSPS. How can we apply the filtering on the TA as well as in the TSPS at the same instance at the same time?
Yeah. So basically, we can go through that. Let's say a particular instance has been discovered on Petrolegend, and the same instance is discovered on TSPS also. Now you can apply the filtering policy. So once you apply a filtering policy for that particular instance, it will be marked for delete in TSPS. And once the configured time is over, like in TSPS by default it is 7 days. So after that 7 days, that instance will be deleted from altogether deleted from the TSPS.
Okay.
And we will go through that. Yeah.
Okay. If you have any use case for this, can you show that? It will be easy for us to understand.
Okay, I can show you that. As a part of like kind of, I can show that in a TSPS UI itself.
Yeah. TSP. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll cover that as a part of next slide. So this is, yeah, so we'll go on to the next use case, that is in the next use case, like filtering policy is applied before the instance is discovered on Petrolegend. Like you have applied a policy, let's say on processor application class for, let's say, instance CPU underscore 0, and that particular instance has not yet been discovered onto the Petrolegend. So in this case, the behavior will be once the petrol agent discovers this instance, that is CPU underscore 0 on petrol agent, that instance CPU underscore 0 won't be seen on TSPS itself, because that instance was never discovered on TSPS.
Since it is you are filtered on the PS, so it won't be visible on the TSPS.
No, see, this filtering is applicable only at TSIM TSPS level. The collection is happening on petrol agent. The collection are not stopped, or instance collection, instance discovery is not stopped on petrol agent. The filtering is applicable at TSPS level or TSIM level. So the instances are discovered on petrol agent, but the data is not streamed to the TSIM or TSPS.
Fine. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So how to configure this policy? So we have covered that in this particular screenshot. So in TSPS, like create monitoring policy, we have filtering tab. Inside filtering tab, like you create, you select a monitor type filter, and so add monitor type screen will appear. Then under the scope, we have two options like attribute and instance. So for case of instance filtering, you select instance as a scope, and the corresponding instance filtering policy will be applied. So I can show you as a part of like how it appears in TSPS later on. So you select filter out data, send all event but no data in the select filter category, and so the instance filtering feature will be enabled. Yeah. So once you select that instance scope, let's say you enter any instance ID which you want to filter out from in the TSPS or TSIM, and even we have the option of regular expression. So we do even support the regular expression. Let's say customer wants to filter out hundreds of instances which matches a particular criteria, the filtering criteria. So he can specify the regular expression as a part of instance seed. Let's say he can specify CPU dot star. So he will try to filter out all the instances that begin with CPU has CPU in as a part of instance seed. So considering this particular as an example, let's say if you apply the filtering policy for processor application class on Windows, and if you specify CPU underscore 0 instance without a regular expression, then these are the pconfig variable like getting applied on petrol agents. If you do a pconfig plus get on petrol agent, this particular pconfig rule is applied onto the agent. So from the troubleshooting perspective, this will be kind of important. Like if we see that instances are not getting filtered out in TSPS, then these are the kind of troubleshooting steps which we need to follow. Like try to get whether the policies are applied on petrol agent or not. Yeah. So maybe I can show you.
So in this scenario, we are filtering only the data. The events will still come appear, right?
Yeah. Right. Event will still appear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, anytime there's an instance suppression, it's assume no data, right? You can't have data and not have the instance, but we leave it to the customer whether they choose to want events from those instances, which is the primary use case, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So for both use cases, are these attributes counted towards total attributes or not?
They're not known. So neither the instances that are suppressed or the associated attributes are in our accounts, because TrueSight's totally agnostic to them even existing. Patrol side of the world still sees them, but the TSIM and TSPS have no knowledge of those instances or attributes.
All right, that was clear in use case 2, but in use case number 1, it seemed as if they were discovered. It was applied after the fact.
Yeah, true. But in use case 1, think of it like legacy TrueSight customers. They already have instances that are discovered. They may, in most cases, probably suppressing the data. When they apply a policy with instance suppression, the agent picks up the change, and now those and sends the delete message upstream so that they become marked for delete. Based on the customer's marked for delete window, then we'll start removing the instances and attribute from the accounts as we delete them from TrueSight.
Okay, fair enough.
Yep.
Yeah. So
But
just
it did, and that's really the distinction in the two use cases. So for customers that we're working with, as those policies become active, agents that have yet to connect to TrueSight and pick up a policy will never tell us about them. Therefore, we don't have to mark them for delete and get rid of them. It's only when the agent has already exposed those objects to TrueSight that we go through the mark for delete process to get rid of them because we already knew them.
Then this is just to distinguish what we currently have today, where it's not actually the information is coming in, but it's the attributes are still counted in 10.5 and 10.0. It's still an attribute. Is that correct?
It's only going to be an attribute for those instances that are discovered to TrueSight. For instances suppressed, the associated attribute count of them will not be counted.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying in comparison to 10.5.
No, even in comparison to 10.5, think of them as just not in existence. So today in 10.5, I can suppress data for, let's call it the services app class. We still count the instance and attributes against those even though they're suppressed because we allow people to graph off them. So we still have to have all the object information in case somebody wanted to graph a service up-down status. So we still understand all those instances. We still understand all those attributes. Where instance suppression differs is the agent makes TrueSight believe those instances do not exist. So there are no instances and there are no attributes in 10.7 for any instances that have been chosen to be suppressed. So when you think of broad brush scale issues, customers services is a huge one, right? For IKEA, it equals like a third of their instance and attribute count is purely represented by Windows Service Monitoring. By being able to apply instance suppression, now TrueSight doesn't know any of those, doesn't understand those instances and doesn't know them. They're able to vent on them but not incur the scaling penalty of the TSIM or the presentation server happen to know those instances. When the events come in, we correlate them to the device because we have no lower level object to correlate them to. So they become device correlated events for those events when a customer chooses to continue to receive events even though they're suppressing the instances. Does that make sense?
Thank
Yes.
Yeah, as Tom mentioned, from 10.7 onwards, like if we are filtering out the instances, then corresponding the parameters of that particular instance are also not sending the data to TSIM or TSPS. So we don't stream the data for corresponding instance also. So as we mentioned in my previous slide, so in infrastructure policy, if you say we need to say create policy, and then here is the option of create policy, and under filtering section, if you select a monitor and then add monitor, we have option of instance filtering. Like if you select the scope as instance, then we have the option of filtering out an instance, particular instance, and the option which we need to select under the select filter combo box is like filter out the instance, separate instance, send event and no data. So this is the option which we select for instance filtering feature to be enabled. So right now, like we have already created one policy for processor application class. We can go through that. So this is a policy which we have created. Yeah. So if I edit this, we can see that we are trying to filter out the instance CPU_0 of processor application class, and now you can see the behavior under like manage devices section of TSPS. So CPU_0 is application class which is still discovered on Petrol agent. It is collecting data on the Petrol agent, but it is not streaming data onto TSPS. We will just go on to the device page. So on the device page, we can see the processor application class is MFD. As we have mentioned that this was the instance which was already discovered in the TSPS, and later on we have applied the policy filtering policy for CPU_0. So it has marked for delete this particular application class. Once like configure time is over, like by default it is 7 days, this particular instance CPU_0 will altogether get deleted from TSPS. Now the second use case was like we apply the policy before the instance is discovered onto the Petrol agent. So in that case, this particular instance won't be visible at first place itself, because the policy was applied before the instance was discovered on TSPS.
Yeah, the one thing I would add is that the trigger for the mark for delete is performed by the agent's discovery cycle. So if you're already bringing instances in, you go create a policy, like in, I think a general use case like in this app class is customers only want the total. They don't really care about the individual processor, so they write a little regex that knocks out all the numbered instances, but keep the underscore total. When they create that policy and enable it, at whatever the discovery cycle for the impacted app class runs on is when we'll send the messages to mark for delete. So when you hit enable, just know there could be a little bit of a lag while the patrol agent hits its next discovery cycle for that app class, and that's what will trigger the mark for delete messages up into TrueSight.
Right, which is different than the collection cycle. So I have a question before you go off the screen.
Yes, Brian, yeah, go ahead.
So I noticed in your policy you said that you wanted to suppress CPU_0.
Yeah.
Yeah. When we look here, it's just 0.
Yeah.
So from this interface, how would a customer know, because each application class or each instance could be created differently. So how's the customer know from this interface and not going to like TSIM what they need to put in for excluding that? Is there a hover over? Is there a place I can look to say the instance name is X? Is there a way, because it's different than what you showed?
Yeah, I got it. Then, so I mean, the name which we see over here is a display name in the Petrol and not really instance seed.
Correct.
So yeah, so I mean, this is a kind of, I mean, I accept that how the customer will come to know the exact seed. Like, so in this case, like the customer needs to know the seed of which he wants to filter out. So
right, and so how we did that before is in TSIM we could hover over and get the SID. Is there a way that we've put in TSPS, which I don't think so, of how I can tell that SID?
You're right. So Brian, you're right. It takes the SID. You have to know the SID because it's an agent side application, not a TrueSight side application.
Right.
So you do have to know the SID, and today the easiest way, if you don't already know it, is to go over to the TSIM and mouse hover on the object in TSIM, and we give you both pieces of information. We do have a backlog item to give a similar capability on the presentation server so that they don't have to go to TSIM, but that's not in the Nephrite.
Yeah, and I knew that's how we did it before, is going to TSIM. So my suggestion would be, as part of the documentation, we need to make sure that, because I don't think when we were looking at the suppression screen, when we were looking at the policy, I don't think it said SID. I may have missed that. But we probably ought to have some information in the documentation that says this is the SID, and current way of finding the SID is to do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's going to immediately be a support case that, okay, well, I put in 0 and it's not working, so it's broken.
Yeah. Yeah, so like, yeah, Ben,
I agree.
Yeah, we do agree. Like, but I mean, we got these particular inputs even at the time of demo that how the customer will be in position to identify the seed. But yeah, I mean, like as of now, it's kind of legacy behavior for all the policies. Like, not for instance filtering but for all the policies we accept instance seed and not really the display name in case of petrol.
Right, and I,
Yeah,
and
I
I
agree.
understand that. I just want to make sure that we have a path for the customer to find that out without having to call support. So in our documentation, we should give some information.
Yeah, they
Right.
can
Now,
also
you-
query the agent too, right? To get the list
Yeah,
of
you could do an
instances.
agent query, or if you knew how to do a get, you could get instances.
Yeah,
So
I
the
mean,
legacy people will have less of an issue than maybe green people, but the idea that by putting it in the doc won't generate a support call, some of the support people on this call must be cracking up.
yeah.
Well, I'm not saying it won't. I'm just saying that give them the information that if they actually go to the documentation and look at it, that they have the information to do what they need to do.
Yeah, no, we all agree.
Yeah. So I mean, as Todd, you mentioned, like we can even do the query on instances through agent query tool in TSPS and can try to get what are the instances of an application class. Maybe we can try out over here. Let's say this is the agent which is running and query agent. If we say then print get. Yeah, so
So, and
I
that, and
mean,
that, and that does give it to me, and I agree. But then I also, as a customer, I'm trying to think of the, as Todd said, the greenfield, the person who doesn't really understand the control agent side. They would need to know what the app class was, which is NT_CPU, which again, they have to go somewhere. So I think that the instructions could be, if you're savvy, you can do a query because it's going to be different for everyone. But, if you go to the TSIM, you do the hover over, it gives you the SID, use that SID. That's just my thoughts.
yeah, sure. Yeah, we completely agree for that. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, similarly, like right now we have filtered out CPU_0. So if customer wants to filter out, let's say all the instances, then he can provide the regular expression. He can provide a regular expression CPU dot star and enable that regular expression checkbox, which you mentioned
So
earlier.
don't close that screen yet. Don't close that screen. So is that the same host that we excluded it on?
Yeah. It was the same one.
I wouldn't think that would show up, but anyway, okay. I guess it still shows up on the agent side, right? But it just doesn't push it
Yeah,
through.
it's the agent. You're querying the agent for what the agent knows, not what TrueSight knows.
Yeah.
Right, but the agent's not actually excluding collection. It's just excluding it going up. And I thought it was actually excluding it at the agent.
Yeah.
That's why, yeah, it's just suppressing it from TrueSight, not from Patrol.
Okay. Okay, that's where I had a misunderstanding. Great. All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. So can we move on to the next platform support, or do you want to see the regular expression feature, or yeah, move on to the next. Yeah.
When you go to that mark for deleted instance,
Yeah.
we see that all for the data and events. So in case we filtered out the particular instance, do we still get the events?
We will get the events, but not the data.
Not the data.
Yeah. So
to suppress the events, we have to.
no, there is option.
No, we have
That
a
is
filter.
Yeah, there is another option wherein we can filter out the events for that particular instance also. So that is the legacy behavior of 10.5 Petrol Agent. So this is not something new to the Petrol Agent. So we can even filter out the events also. Thanks.
Hey, Pankaj, even I have a question here.
Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned that you have to suppress, we can suppress the instances, on the Petrol Agent. The data is suppressed, okay, well, data collection still happens on the Petrol Agent, but the instances are not discovered in TSIM and therefore on the TSPS server. Now, let's say, for example, this policy does not, it is applied on the Petrol Agent, but it does not take an effect. Meaning the data collection is happening on the Petrol Agent, Okay, but the instance is not marked, instance is not shown as marked for deletion on the TSIM server. So what should we check in this case? Because ideally, the patrol agent still has the instance discovered and it is still collecting data there. So which information or which log files would, throw some light on this? Again, the pconfig will also have the policy, as in the KM pushed in it. It will also not show the suppression of any instances there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, actually, we have covered this as a part of our first slide itself. Like maybe I can go back. So I mean, you are talking more about, I mean, more from the troubleshooting perspective. Like how can we identify from the support perspective that this is filtered out, but still it is not getting marked for delete in TSPS.
Right.
So for that for that particular purpose, I mean, we first need to verify whether these policies which we right now see on the screen. Hold on. Yeah, these policies are applied onto the petrol agent. So this is specific. Like for an instance filtering feature to be enabled, we need to check whether the it is exclude data at instance level. So second policy from the top, like config data kmdev application class name in this case is ntcpu and instance name in this case is cpu_0. So at that application class level, at that instance level, whether we have received a policy of exclude data. First, we need to verify that. Okay.
Okay.
And then we need to enable the petrol agent in debug mode. For that debug mode, we don't have to enable the complete petrol agent. We don't have to enable all subsystems because it is like a kind of redundant thing. So we just need to enable 3 subsystems like main, com, GDD. These are the subsystems that we need to enable on petrol agent so as to check whether that instance has been really filtered out. So in this case, like you will get filtered AS underscore message APL in petrol agent debug log, and that corresponding application class you will see in at a part of log message.
Okay.
So these 2 steps we need to verify from the agent perspective. So if these are correct, then it should get marked for delete in TSPS.
Right. Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
So then now maybe we can move on to the next platform support. So as a part of petrol agent 10.7, like we have added support for Little Indian PowerPC. We added the support for RHEL Linux 7.1 on PowerPC Little Indian support we added. Similarly, we added a support for SUSE Linux Enterprise Server 12 on PowerPC Little Indian. So these are the two platform support we have added as a part of Nephrite 10.7 petrol agent release. And we have dropped the support for 32-bit flavors of petrol agent in petrol agent 10.7 release. Okay. And moving on to the next slide, like this is the major, kind of change which is which we meant to look upon from the support perspective. So, like there are 2 event class that is event class 11 and event class 9. These are the 2 event classes wherein petrol agent sends the event when the petrol agent parameter goes in alarm and when it comes back to the normal state. So these are the 2 basically event classes that are get once the alarm is generated or warning is generated. So we have changed the event message for this particular event classes. So earlier, like before petrol agent 10.7, like format of the message was alarm 1 of global parameters, so and so parameter triggered on application class, and the range is between 5 to 95. So this was the message which was getting triggered for event of class 11. So like we need to have more user-friendly message. That was the whole reason we have changed this particular message. And now the new user-friendly message is like CPU processor time for application class NT-CPU and CPU underscore total is your instance is in warning and the current value is whatever. So this is a format of message which has been changed for event of class 11. Similarly, we have changed the event message for event of class 9. So earlier, like earlier before 10.7, the message was alert on NT CPU underscore total from the global parameter has been cancelled. Exception no longer exists. This was a legacy message, and now the message has been changed to CPU processor time for NT CPU underscore 0 is now okay. So basically, there was a requirement from customer to have more user-friendly kind of messages. So why this was important from the support perspective was because there might be customers who have configured the MRL on the existing event messages. So those MRL rules might break because of this particular new format of message. Suppose our earlier customer have configured some MRL rules based upon the keywords on the old event description. So they are going to bound to break because we are no more sending that event message. And this is a new format of message. So they are going to break. So anyway, we have basically document this particular thing as a part of release notes. So it's into release notes.
So I have a question.
Yeah,
so why did we decide to change the message instead of giving them instructions on going in and just making the modifications on the agent in a policy that would configure the event to whatever they want? And so my example is that we had provided in the past a default policy that customers could consume for event messaging. And so they can actually either leverage that, or we could give them instructions to go in and have those values set.
Brian,
and the reason
I get it, Brian, I can answer that. So that is still in play, right? So we still want customers to set up basic eventing and policies. The challenge we have is, and we've done this even in the predefined out of the box, if they install the repo and say build me policies from that we include the event setup as part of those base policies as well. But this covers the agents that haven't been done. So our legacy customers, literally everyone, rewords patrol events into a more English, let's call it a consumable message form instead of alarm 1 greater than alarm 2. So because for alarms and OKs, literally every customer hates to consume that message, we just got in front of them doing it from a policy perspective and gave them a better out-of-box experience for parameter level messages. It isn't that a policy wouldn't do the same update and a policy wouldn't overwrite these values. The problem is or what we're trying to do is provide a better greenfield out-of-the-box customer experience to get a much more consumable message right out of the box from the agent.
Right, and I agree with that. And I think that the only concern I have is the customers who said, I'm not going to update it, I'll just use MRL to manipulate it the way I want, and then they're expecting that message to come a certain way. So we just need to make sure that it's real clear in the release notes and what's changed and what's new, so that they know that before they upgrade, and then their event rules are broken.
Yeah, so Brian, like this part has been already documented as a part of what new section in a document. So we are documenting this. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. No, I like the idea. It's just always scary when you change the message because of how people deal with messages.
Yeah, true.
But for the instance where, to Todd's point, so if we've already consumed the event management, the event rules that manipulate the setting, they're still going to have the same thing because that overrides whatever the default setting is. So I think it's good.
Yeah.
And on upgrade, so this is all done on the patrol agent side. So on an upgrade, it would not impact that customer as well because it's an upgrade, and we wouldn't be forcing those settings into the pconfig. This is just a fresh customer. This would be part of the config.default.
Correct.
Okay. So I think the impact is lower until they start rolling out brand new agents. So I think we're good. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Brian.
And one last question does this this format match what we were deeming in the policy for events?
Yes.
Great. That's awesome. Thank you.
So these were the three kind of features which we added out of the Petrol Legend 10.7 as a part of Nephrite release. So any questions anyone has on this?
So this event format.
Okay.
Suppose if I have the 4.9 KM
Okay.
and 10.7 petroleum.
Okay.
Do I get the new format of the event or?
Yeah, we will get a new format of event because I mean these particular event classes are not KM specific. So these are out of box kind of events getting triggered when the parameter, whenever there is a kind of state change, whether the parameter goes from OK to alarm, OK to, these are out of box event of class. So these are not kind of custom events. So once you update petrol agent, you will get the new kind of format, although the KMs are old ones. So if the petrol agent is not upgraded,
It's a fresh install.
yeah, yeah. I mean, this particular change in message you will be observing in TSIM. Yeah, whenever you forward the event to TSIM or in the cell integration. So if you try to see that particular event in petrol agent, you will get the old format itself. So this is applicable on the TSIM path. Like that's all from petrol agent 10.7 perspective. So if you have any questions, just let us know, or maybe you can send us an email so that we can try to respond. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Thanks, Pankaj.
Yeah, thanks everyone on the call.
Okay.